My husband's childhood best friend asked me for a favor and then humiliated me in front of her family. I'm done being the bigger person. So I, 30 female, have been happily married for a few years now. My husband, 31 male, is honestly a gem. He's kind, patient, hilarious, and loyal. Basically everything you'd want, which after having an ex cheat on me with his best friend, is kind of a big deal. That relationship wrecked me for a while, but I worked hard not to drag the wreckage into something new. And my husband? Thankfully, my husband has never given me a single reason to question him. Until now. Maybe. I don't know. My husband and I have a great relationship, and we're pretty social and often hang out with each other's friends. I get along with almost all of his group, and they've honestly made me feel welcome. Except for her. His childhood best friend. Let's call her C. C has always been cold to me. Not outright rude, just subtle enough to make me feel crazy for noticing. You know that kind of vibe? Every time we've been in the same room, she's managed to talk around me, not to me. I tried. I really did. I've smiled, made conversation, been nothing but warm, even when she's given me nothing to work with. She doesn't show up to group hangouts, but she'll invite him over, and he always tells me. To his credit. He never goes without mentioning it, and he's never weird or secretive about her, but it still rubs me the wrong way. I've tried being friendly, I've tried small talk. Hell, I invited her to our birthdays, barbecues, engagement dinner, and she bailed on all of them. She skipped our wedding too, and she only ever seems to reach out to him, usually when she's just been dumped and needs to talk. When I've brought it up, my husband says I'm overthinking it, that C is just a little odd socially. Maybe she is. Then, a few weeks ago, out of nowhere, she messaged me. She asked if I'd model for her project. Totally unexpected, and I was caught off guard enough to say yes. Part of me thought maybe this is her trying to connect. Maybe this was her olive branch. I even felt a little hopeful. God, I was naive. So I agreed. My husband offered to come with me since he hadn't seen her in a while and thought that it'd be fun to catch up after. When we got there, her family was also involved, and from the second I walked in, it was like stepping into some passive-aggressive Twilight Zone. Her mum and sister kept calling my husband our son-in-law. I laughed, awkwardly. Think I must have misheard it. It only got worse. During the shoot came more of the snarky comments, jokes about the one that got away, and some bonds never fade. Her mum at one point literally said, "We always thought C would end up with him, but life has its detours, I guess." C always imagined walking down the aisle with him. And then, it's sweet of her to fill in though. That's insane. Oh, come on. I wish I was exaggerating. And C? She just kept snapping pictures, smiling, saying nothing. No, hey, cut it out. No awkward laugh, no redirect, nothing. My husband? Clearly uncomfortable. I watched him fidget through the whole thing, clear his throat a few times. He tried to change the subject or come near me. during the shooting. He didn't say much either. Just went kinda quiet. I stuck it out for an hour. I let her take her photos, smiled, posed, whatever. But the whole time I felt like I was a part of a social experiment and everyone else was in on the joke but me. When we got in the car, he was silent for a while. And then finally said, "Sorry about all that. That was weird, right?" And honestly, I didn't even know what to say because yeah, it was weird. It was borderline disrespectful. And the fact that he was there, saw all of it, clearly felt it too, and still didn't step in or pull the plug, it makes me feel kind of alone in this. I'm just tired. I'm tired of pretending this woman is harmless or just awkward. She knows exactly what she's doing. I don't want to start a huge fight, but I'm at the point where I don't want her in our lives. Not as a friend, not as a ghost in the corner of our marriage, no more bending over backwards to be the cool wife. I'm not interested in earning points with someone who clearly doesn't want me around. Anyway, Thanks for letting me scream into the void for a minute. I really needed to get this out. Edit. Sorry guys, English is not my first or even second language. Sometimes it's harder to get my points and feelings across. Just to clarify a few things people were asking about, C is actually a photography major, and this shoot was a part of her final project. I'm not a professional model or anything, but I've done some hobby modeling here and there. So when she asked if I'd help out, I thought that it was a casual favor. Why at her house? Well, she comes from a wealthy family and has a fully set up photo studio in her house, which is why the shoot happened there instead of at a regular studio. I honestly thought it would just be her and the camera, not a full audience with drinks and commentary. Additional background, I grew up in a pretty emotionally abusive household, so I think I've gotten too used to passive-aggressive comments and just sort of freeze up. Maybe that's why I didn't react more in the moment, but yeah, it definitely hit harder after the fact. I'll update you as soon as possible. Thank you for all of your comments. In the comments, No Strawberry says, borderline disrespectful? I'd hate to see what you think is actually disrespectful. That was my first thought. Clearly disrespectful. Over the line. Yeah, there was no borderline about it. This was rude and disrespectful as hell. I'm sorry she did this to you. And I'll be honest, I'm a bit disappointed that your husband didn't say anything to stop them. They were purposefully hurtful to you. When they were all saying they always thought C would end up with him, he should have said no. I got what I wanted, and I'm more than happy with my choice. You should be telling your husband it's not weird, it's par for the course. This is just the next step in the very apparent pattern of behavior from C that he's allowed to let happen. Over and over. Every time he left, whether to spend time with her out of the home or over the phone, to spend time with her, she tallied that as a victory. Now it's a matter of pushing the line. How much will he allow at your expense? How easily will he forgive with a short, insincere apology if he finally says something? She's playing a long game and trying to plant ideas. And it's even better when someone else can plant the ideas too. Enter her family. This is not new. This is not weird. This is her normal behavior towards you. Maybe his rose-colored glasses are slipping. You know, it always comes to stories like this where it's like, divorce him, get rid of that guy, what's wrong with him? But how do you provide commentary on situations like this where the authors, like OP, are kind of just letting this all happen? I understand they're venting their frustrations online, but they've seen this happen so many times, and they come to the internet talking honestly and openly about it. I respect that. But how am I supposed to react in a situation like this, if not, what the hell is wrong with him for continuously not backing you? Why would you want to stay with someone like that? And why have you accepted this for so long? And why has there never been any more conversations about this? You're married. How can you not have these conversations? If you're uncomfortable with these uncomfortable confrontations, why did you marry them? What was the point of that? How can you not have these tough conversations with the person that has devoted their life to you, putting you above all else, forsaking all others? How can you not have that chat? Genuinely. Come to the internet, ask us for advice. I'm going to tell you, talk to him. Figure this out. Tell him how his actions make you feel. Tell him how her involvement and her embarrassment of you make you feel. And if he doesn't validate you, and he doesn't recognize that what he's been doing is wrong, and that his avoidance of all of this is wrong, and you don't get the result that you want out of that confrontation, then I urge you to think of possibly leaving that relationship. I think it's okay to give that advice, to tell someone to leave a relationship, a marriage in which they're being constantly disrespected by their husband or by their wife. I just don't understand the backlash. But if she has that conversation with him and things go well and he devotes to change, it should be okay to be like, hey, you don't have to leave them. Divorce is an option. It is not the option. I'm glad that things went well for you. Anyway, that's just my rant, because I see it in the comments. I see you guys being like, You obviously have no life experience, because every time you say something, it's divorce. Shut up. I get it. I'll read your comments. I like it. But at least see where I'm coming from. This situation really sucks for OP though. Like, I want to hug her and be like, you didn't deserve any of that. You deserve so much better than what you've been put through here. And I really hope that he wises up and gets rid of her. I don't care if she's his best friend from childhood. You didn't deserve that, and it's disgusting how she treated you. And now, onto the update. They do a quick recap for those who missed the original. We already went over that. But I'll read this part. Nope. Instead, I got publicly mocked by her family, who joked out loud that she should have been the one marrying my husband. First off, holy crap. I didn't expect that post to blow up like it did. Thank you to everyone who commented, messaged, or just made me feel like I wasn't losing my mind. So many of you asked for an update, and here it is. For those wondering, no, they never dated. He had a high school crush on her over a decade ago. That's ancient history. No, I don't think he's ever cheated, emotionally or physically. He's always very open and honest. We have each other's passwords. They barely see each other anymore in person, maybe once every few months, as we live about 2 hours away. Okay, so here's the update. Funny enough, I didn't even get the chance to sit down and talk to my husband before something else happened. I just can't believe my life at the moment. Anyway, I was still trying to process what happened and sort through my anger towards C, and honestly towards my husband too. And that's when I got a message from my sister-in-law, we'll call her M. I'm really close with M. She's also part of the wider social circle that C floats around in. They're friendly, but not close. She sends me a screen recording from C's close friend story with a simple WTF. It was a clip of me posing during the shoot, no music, but in the background, you can clearly hear C's sister say, C should have been the one to marry him. I lost it. I waited until my husband got home from work, sat him down, and showed him the video. He watched it once, then again. His whole face changed. He finally looked pissed. I couldn't help but think, why didn't he have the same reaction there? So I laid it all out. I told him everything. Every snide comment, every time C made me feel small, how I'd always tried to be civil, how I never asked him to choose between us, but I was done being polite while someone consistently disrespected me. I told him, if this doesn't bother you enough to act, we've got a bigger problem. I'm not going to be in a marriage where I have to beg to be defended. I need a partner who stands up for me, and if that's not you, then I need to rethink this. He didn't argue, didn't get defensive, and I know he feels sorry. Then I showed him the Reddit post. He tried to read every comment. Some of them made him tear up. When he finished, he looked at me and said that he feels like the worst husband. He let this happen right in front of him. He is so sorry. And asked me, what do you need from me now? I told him straight up, this isn't just about her anymore. It's about whether or not you're willing to protect this marriage. But I'm not going to feel like I'm second place in my own relationship, so it's either me or her. So we called C. She picked up all cheerful, acting like nothing had happened. We brought up the video, and she immediately got defensive, saying, "Oh, come on, it was a joke. Are you really mad over that? Seriously?" And that's when he stepped in and said, "This isn't just about the video. It's the constant disrespect towards my wife. I didn't say anything before because I didn't want to lose your friendship, and I convinced myself you didn't mean it. But what happened at that shoot? That was disgusting. My wife came to support you, and you and your family treated her like a joke. I didn't speak up then, and I'm ashamed of that, but that ends now. I don't even know why I held on to this friendship for so long. If you can't respect my wife, you don't respect me." She laughed, literally laughed, and said, "Wow, you're really cutting me off over that girl?" Oh my God. I was ready to fight, but my husband calmed me down and said to C, if choosing between you and my wife ever felt like a hard decision, I wouldn't deserve her. We're not kids anymore. You need to grow up. I simply don't want to be your friend anymore. I have nothing else to say. I'm telling you, he can be a gem sometimes. But yeah, we blocked her and her entire family. Since then, he's been checking in with me. Not trying to fix things, just showing up, listening, understanding. He finally sees what I've been dealing with. We've still got some healing to do, but now I know where he stands. And that changes everything for me. To everyone who commented last time, thank you. Seriously. You helped me feel like I wasn't crazy, and maybe even more importantly, you helped him finally see it too. In the comments, Dissatisfied Optimist says, "This is what apologizing looks like. Address your shortcomings, ask what to do to fix it, and act with intent to remedy the situation at hand in order to mend the one at risk. It sucks a guy sometimes has to get slapped across the face with something that is so obvious, but it's how he responded that was redeeming. Having to get your family to join in on you bullying someone is beyond pathetic. I don't understand how people's minds work sometimes. If it were my family who commented, he was supposed to marry you, not her, in front of me and his wife, I would be so humiliated and bury myself in my room and never come out. How pathetic does the friend look that her family thinks she cannot attract a decent enough guy that they hung up on a married man? My takeaway from this is, why did it take this being on the sister-in-law's story for him to finally have a change of mind? Was he content with it until he saw that someone else outside of his immediate circle noticed it? I just don't get it. He avoided this, he buried it, he acted like it didn't exist at the time and immediately afterwards, and he only changed his mind when OP's sister-in-law brought it up. This girl best friend deserves the worst. Her family, toxic, disgusting, obviously, let's throw them in the trash. I could go on about them forever, but why did it take this for the husband to have a change of heart? You know, I'd be questioning that relationship, even though he is doing the work to rebuild it now. Is there something wrong with him? I would think it'd take more than just this moment in time to forgive him for his betrayal. I think he would need some therapy to figure out why he didn't react in the moment and why he didn't notice this earlier. That's not to say that he's a bad person. That's not to say that they deserve to break up over this. Not at all. More so, I want to know where he's coming from, and I think he needs to recognize he needs to do some work on himself. The relationship can and probably will get stronger from this point forward as a result of something as messed up as this. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you for the story, OP. Hope all continues to go well into the future. And yeah, thank you, Jack, for helping me have new perspectives on things and yapping about things in a different way. I've really enjoyed the podcast, and having him there to bounce ideas off of in real time and listen to his perspective kind of helps me have a different worldview going forward, I guess. I'd love to know what you guys think, though. Our next post is by user Professional Rub, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my parents I'm willing to sell them my forgiveness?" So my parents expected me to be independent the minute I turned 18. They gave me the money they had saved up for my education, and they started charging me rent. I was lucky enough to have a partial scholarship, and I found a job in the city my university was in, so I moved there before the school year began. With my parents' money, my scholarship, and my wages, I was able to scrape by. I rarely, if ever, spoke with my parents. I was kind of busy. I guess they decided that they didn't want that kind of relationship with my younger siblings because they were not presented with the same option. They both lived at home all through university and even afterwards. I am 34 now with a decent job and a great girlfriend whom I'll be marrying this summer. I sent my parents and siblings an invitation. They called me to ask why they weren't involved with the wedding. I responded that they hadn't really been a part of my life for 16 years and that I was being nice by inviting them. They said that they acknowledged that they made mistakes when I was young, but that it was in the past and that I should get over it. Against my fiance's advice, I sent them an itemized bill for everything I paid for myself that they freely gave my brother and sister. I said that if they wanted to be a part of my life, they had to ante up. They said that they can't afford that because they're in debt still from helping my siblings out. I laughed at that and said I hoped that I would see them at the wedding, and hung up. My family are all getting a hold of me to let me know how much I'm hurting my parents. The thing is, I don't want their money, and I don't want anything from them at all other than their attendance at my wedding. If they can't do that, then I'm fine with our yearly phone call. Am I the asshole? In the comments, Poetry Dreams says, not the asshole, but maybe the itemized bill was a bit much, but I imagine it was cathartic for you. Your parents haven't been around in a decade and a half. They have a lot of nerve to ask to be involved. Not being involved in your wedding is just reaping what they sowed. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding. Yeah, it's an asshole move in a vacuum, but this is more about catharsis and appropriate response. I filed this away as one of those really good ideas for dealing with crazy people. Mathematics Duck says, I'm tired of this sub's black and white view of being an asshole. Sometimes it's perfectly reasonable to be an asshole. Sending an itemized bill is one of those times. They said they can't afford that because they're in debt still from helping my siblings out. I'm sorry, what? Then why did they do it in the first place? Not the asshole, OP. Perhaps siblings can pay back now. If their perceived choice was going into debt to support their adult kids or lose almost all contact with them like OP, it's not surprising they picked debt. Of course, the reality is the choice was a bit less extreme. Let them live at home rent-free and pay what they could without going into debt. I don't understand. I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, don't think sending the itemized list was an asshole move. To me, it's akin to shining a mirror in their face and seeing, look at the damage you did to me. How does that feel? Oh no, an itemized list of everything that we paid for your siblings. God, you're a piece of shit. I hate you. How could you intentionally hurt me like this? The truth, I can't deal with it. That's what I'm imagining their reactions to it were like. Just cringing on the inside because, reality, man, reality really hurts. I need some SPF 15 for that one. What brain-broken Redditors are convincing themselves that that was a bad thing to do? Oh yeah, your parents haven't been involved in your life for 16 years, but you retaliating at all makes you an asshole. Shut up. Come on. I'm genuinely surprised OP didn't scream down the phone at them, because that's what OP should have done. And even in that instance, OP would not be an asshole, because those assholes would have deserved it. I'd scream them 6 ways to Sunday, I'd go to hell and back, telling them just how their actions made me felt and how unjust and unfair it was that my younger siblings didn't have to go through the hell that I did, and they have it much better. I don't care about how much debt my parents are in because of that. You two assholes decided to shoulder the burden of debt for those siblings because you realized they would cut you off too. And in that time, you recognizing that you did the wrong thing, you never once came back and said, hey, we messed up. We're sorry. What can we do to fix this? No, you just doubled and tripled down and allowed that to continue while I saw the life I could have had with these two living under your roof. No, it's not okay. I'm not okay. I don't even know why the parents are getting an invitation to the wedding for this, because it's obvious they're not sorry for what they did to OP, and they never once thought, hey, we should reverse the damage. I can understand the siblings still getting an invitation. It's not their fault, but it is the parents' fault, and I don't think the parents deserve an invitation, much less any involvement in the wedding. Not the asshole a million times over. You should have gone harder. And now, onto the update, 2 years later. So I posted a couple of years ago about my parents being upset that I didn't make them a bigger part of my wedding. This was after a decade and a half of us barely speaking, and all of us being okay with the state of our relationship. They did end up coming to the wedding, and then going away afterwards. Which was great, and exactly what I wanted from them. My younger sister just got married and I was invited. I don't mind my sister, so my wife and I made a trip of it with my wife's mum. That way, we had childcare for our son, and we could have had a nice visit to my hometown, which I rarely visit. It was a child-free wedding, which was fine by us. However, my wife still did need to take a couple of breaks to pump. We had a cooler for the milk so it wouldn't go to waste, and this caused another shit show. My parents were upset that I didn't bring my son to the wedding. A child-free wedding that they were helping to pay for. I just laughed and said we could get together before we went home, but this wasn't good enough. They said we had to bring him to the gift opening the next day. Pass. We had plans. I told them this, and they were pissed that we were just coming to the wedding and then not visiting. We do not have that kind of relationship. They've only seen my son once since he was born. They've gone on 3 overseas vacations in that time. They both earn good money and have time to travel. They just choose to spend their time and money in other ways than seeing him. I'm not sure how to convey to them that we are related, but not really at all that close anymore. I love them and such, but in an obligatory way. They are my parents. Anyways, that's about it. They seem to have forgotten my facetious offer to sell them my forgiveness. Oh yeah, my brother still lives at home, rent-free. He has a full-time job as a teacher. A little bit of a jab there at the end, okay? In the comments, Sufficient Fruit says, not the arsehole. Weren't they in debt? If they wanted to see your child, they would. You don't owe them anything. OP says, they said they were. I have not forbidden them from seeing the boy. Boggers says, so they paid for your sister's wedding. I bet they didn't pay a cent of yours. Looks like they haven't changed in 20 years. You can't choose your family, I suppose. Don't be shocked to find that you, and not your siblings or their own savings, are their retirement plan. And OP says, that's not going to happen. Oh my god. This guy laid out exactly what my mum's relationship has been with me. We had this distance because they kicked me out at 18 and didn't put an effort into seeing me. My mum recently died, and I've been struggling with a lot of weird feelings. I have some guilt for not being more upset, but this guy laid out why I don't. We just weren't all that close anymore. God, I was worried I'm a psychopath. Vastros replies, you aren't a psychopath. In some ways, you grieve the death of the relationship that you wish you had more than the actual death of the person. Of course, you feel bad about that for a while. Relationships are a two-way street. It's not all on you. They had to put in the work as well. They clearly didn't. Take your time to feel kinda shitty, then take your time to feel shitty about not feeling shitty enough. Process your emotions, but don't let them hold you down. I think those are some good words of advice to end that story on. While I myself have very rigid and emotional reactions to things like this, I respect OP for still having an amicable relationship with their parents. And it's obvious that those parents do not care about him. Do not care about him at all. They would rather go overseas, spend money they don't have while they're still in debt, and avoid taking what sounds like a pretty easy trip to go see their grandkid, and then get upset that he won't bring the grandkid to them when he already has made plans. I feel nothing but anger at these parents of his. I don't understand how they can even call themselves parents. They sound like toddlers. They sound like little babies who get upset at the slightest hint of not getting what they want, and upset that the world is not all about them. Again, glad you can have a relationship with people like that, OP, but I would feel disrespected at every turn. And I don't know how long I personally could maintain a relationship with people like that. So again, big respect to you for that, and still not the arsehole. Thank you for the story. Our next post is by user Altruistic Bet, and it's titled, I'm ridiculously attracted to our neighbor. I have no intention to cheat. Feeling so much guilt. I am somehow happily married. We have 2 children together, and I have a stepdaughter, and I'm all around quite satisfied with my love, and I would never want to risk throwing everything that I have away. My husband betrayed me in many ways in the past, but I've forgiven him and we are relatively good. This is not the first time that I've had an intense crush while I was in a serious committed relationship. I've just always distanced myself from whoever it was as much as I could. The problem is that this neighbor lives right next to our home. I see him every other day minimum. We get along really well. His long-term partner is lovely, and their son is often at our place. He's very handsome. I've always known he was, but I was never this intensely attracted to him. The only difference is that we had been chatting a lot more than usual, and he started sending me messages. Completely innocent, related to kid-friendly activities in the neighborhood, markets, etc. I guess I'm just looking for advice or anecdotes from people to tell me this is fine and will pass in time. In the comments, Stargazer STL says, "You can do what you already know you need to do, or you can continue down the path you already suspect will lead to infidelity. If you choose to do the right thing, distance yourself. Shut down the texting, simply stop responding, and avoid and minimize conversation. It's up to you." Vibe Siren replies, "I completely agree with this. OP, you're already self-aware enough to recognize the risk, and that's a huge first step. Crushes can feel intense, but they do fade when you don't feed them. Since distancing has worked for you in the past, trust that instinct now, even if it's harder with a neighbor. Maybe mute or archive the texts for a while. No need to make it awkward, just slow down replies, and keep interactions brief and kid-focused when you see him. Guilt is a sign that you care about your marriage, and that's worth honoring. You've got this." OP replies, "You're sweet. Thank you. I probed during this dinner and asked him what he would do or want me to do in a hypothetical scenario if I had an intense crush on a coworker, and he said he'd want me to tell him if it's something that persisted because it's a sign that something was wrong with us, and in my case, a sign he hadn't done enough to make things right. So I guess I'll see after limiting our interactions. I'll tell him if it persists." Reality Hurts asks, "Does your husband know he's texting you? It doesn't matter if innocent. Honestly, it's easy. Just transition to always replying in a group chat. He sends you kids' activities, reshare in the group chat with him, his wife, and your husband. My husband and I have an unspoken rule of always group chat. Eventually people get the hint, or just see it there on top of their texts." And OP says, "That's not a bad idea, honestly. Thank you." I agree with those suggestions, and I wonder if her bringing it up to him makes him suspicious that there is something going on behind the scenes, and whether he should address that or not. But I'll just say what the others have said. I think you do have to start distancing yourself from that man, and you do have to start replying in a group chat to keep everything above board. I think the husband will suspect something in that moment, but it's not worth falling for an intense crush for someone when you're married. I really feel like that should go without saying, but from my experience of reading these stories for 6 years, you have to say it for some strange reason. You have to point out the obvious to people, because if you don't, they'll come back with an update saying, "Hey guys, I messed up because you didn't state the obvious to me and I'm an idiot." Anyway, hope OP takes the advice. And now, onto the update. I actively avoided said neighbor during the week, put everyone in a group chat. He was still sending me messages. Again, nothing nefarious, same innocent topics, but I stopped answering. He came by to ask me if everything was alright yesterday and if he did something wrong. And I realized I just felt fine. I'm not attracted to him anymore. I still think he's very handsome because I have eyes, but I have no attraction to him whatsoever all of a sudden. He didn't even do anything, really. I just feel the same way that I used to before. So this intense crush lasted a whole 2 weeks. Very glad I didn't tell my husband or do any of the extreme advice given to me by so many people in my first thread that would have ruined what is otherwise a very nice relationship with very lovely people. In the comments, Forsaken Ad 1300 says, "Are you tracking your cycle? Not just when your period starts, but the entire cycle. Use an app and log when you feel strong emotions and see if you start noticing recurring trends. The fact that your crush started and stopped so quickly, me think it's related to your cycle. OP says, I'm 6 months postpartum and my cycle is not resumed yet since I'm breastfeeding. I could totally see it being a hormonal thing though. I said it in my previous post, but I know for sure that it's not the fact that he's handsome that triggered the attraction, because I had known him for 1.5 years and the crush was very sudden. Dogs Duck says, oh, it's probably very much hormonal too. Right around 6 months, currently both 15 months postpartum and 5 months pregnant, I feel like an abundance of myself came back. Like I suddenly felt out of the trenches and so much more in tune with life. I think I commented something about it being okay to find people attractive, and it can still be just an innocent, wholesome thing, and got downvoted on your last post. People can get very up in arms about such things on Reddit, but you truly never seemed even remotely on the brink of cheating. The thing is, I would probably just tell my husband, and he'd be like, uh-oh, in a completely silly way. Agree that the neighbor is handsome, and we'd both understand on a deep level that nothing unwholesome would ever actually occur. You sound like you've got your ducks in a row, and also now you've successfully navigated it and don't have to worry. Quote, he came by to ask me if everything was alright yesterday and if he did something wrong. That's kind of an odd response to having one-on-one texting transferred to a group chat. You might not have been the only one with a case of limerence. OP says, he used to chat with me while I was out gardening or chilling in our garden, and I straight up stopped. I started gardening really early in the morning, but I didn't hang out in the patio anymore because our patios are right next to each other, and when the weather is nice, he works sitting at theirs. Honestly, yeah, I feel like his response of coming over and saying, did I do something wrong? I feel like he was feeling something as well. He was feeling like cheating. Definitely a bit of an emotional affair was starting to blossom there, if I had to put money on it. And I wonder if he was looking for kind of a green light to keep pushing by asking her if he did something wrong. Like, what do you mean? One-on-one texting went to a group chat. Is that not enough of a hint that this is inappropriate? Stop texting me one-on-one. Let's just go back to how things were before. Very weird behavior by him. I don't like it. And I'm glad that OP shut that shit down quick and got rid of him, because what is going on? This is inappropriate. That's unacceptable behavior. Let's stop it. And I agree with OP's approach to this as well. It's good that OP recognized that there is bad advice given on Reddit. Shockingly, Reddit can give bad advice. And that her actions were appropriate. It is okay to have crushes on people. It is not okay to act on them. Shutting it down like this was the right thing to do, and I'm glad that she did it, and I'm happy that she came to share that with us. So thank you, OP. Thank you for doing that. Anyway, guys, that's the end of the video today. I'm glad that you made it here. I'm glad that you watched. I'm sorry for disappearing for a few days. I promise you I am absolutely okay. I just didn't plan enough videos in advance to cover my disappearance. But I did in fact get a very minor, non-life-threatening surgery, so I've just been taking some time to recover, but I'm good to come back to work now, and I'll keep pumping videos out. But there will not be another episode of the podcast right now because of that, so if you're looking forward to in-person podcast content, that's going to be another week delayed. But all will be back to normal soon. Thank you for sticking this out, and I'll see you soon. Bye.